Police confront a black homeless veteran in a Diner 1 phone call. Topples their careers. They said a man like me doesn't belong here, Marcus Hill murmured under his breath as the morning light filtered through the dusty diner window. He rested his palms on the Formica tabletop, tracing the faded grain with calloused fingertips, dog tags tucked just beneath his shirt. It was barely past 7:30 a.m. in suburban Atlanta, but the sky already felt heavy, an unspoken omen of the storm ahead. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and the sweet tang of syrup under low hum of the breakfast rush. Jenny, the barista/vlogger who filmed everything on her phone, slid a chipped mug of black coffee toward him. He lifted it with steady hands, inhaling bitter warmth that stung his lungs the way memories stung his heart. Marcus adjusted his worn military jacket, its frayed cuffs a testament to his deployments overseas and the battles he still fought at home. Across the room, Sam, once a respected detective, wiped down the counter, his blue eyes flickering with quiet defiance. Both of them knew the unspoken truth: being a veteran hadn't made life easier. It had only changed the faces of the enemies. "I'll take my usual Jenny Marcus," said voice low and measured. 3 scrambled eggs, 2 strips of bacon toast, just until golden. She nodded fingers, tapping out a live stream notification to her modest YouTube following, "Watch live Vet vs. Cops." "Let's see what happens." Marcus didn't mind the camera. If his story could catch fire, maybe someone would finally see the man beneath the uniform, not the stereotype of homeless colored veteran. A tiny wildflower pressed against the cracked sidewalk outside caught his eye through the window, a stubborn sprout thriving amid concrete. He thought of how he too had once blossomed under impossible conditions, only to be forgotten when the war ended. The accidental symbol of resilience resonated, tightening his chest with purpose. Then the bell over the door clanged, cutting through the soft chatter. 2 officers in crisp uniforms stepped in. Officer Baker, tall and broad-shouldered, with a stare that pierced like steel, and Officer Mills, stockier, clipboard in hand, lips curled into a smirk. They moved toward Marcus with the practiced ease of predators homing in on prey. Jenny's camera panned. Sam straightened, setting aside his rag. "Morning, gentlemen." Sam greeted, masking concern with professional courtesy. But Baker's cold eyes never left Marcus. "You mind if we chat with this patron?" he asked, tone clipped. Marcus felt each syllable as an accusation. He dipped his head, voice calm but firm. "No objection, officer. I paid for my breakfast." Mills chuckled, tapping his pen against the clipboard. "Receipt, ID. You got proof you're a customer and not just squatting." The diner went silent. Forks and knives hovered mid-air. Jenny's live stream comments exploded. "Here we go, they targeting him, vet abuse." Marcus held their gazes, raising neither voice nor panic. He knew any sudden move could be twisted into cause. His throat tightened. In every tour he'd dissected risk and reward. This was another mission, just with civilian lives on the line. He nodded once, reached into his jacket pocket, and froze at the weight of the old flip phone there. Memories surged, codes whispered in dark tents, the only lifeline when everything else fell apart. He pulled it into view, heart thudding like a war drum. "Step outside," Baker barked, signaling Mills. Jenny's camera-focused eyes wide. Sam bristled beside the counter. Marcus flipped the phone open, unloaded 30 seconds of tension into a single breath, then pressed speed dial. "It's time," he whispered into the receiver. The diner held its breath. And for a moment the wildflower outside seemed to stand taller, as if it too awaited what would come next. "Don't touch my phone!" Marcus hissed through clenched teeth, as Officer Baker's boot nudged the chair leg, the live camera of Jenny's phone trembling in her grip. The moment stretched taut, as a drawn bowstring. Baker's shadow loomed over Marcus's table, his polished badge catching the fluorescent diner lights like a warning flare. Mills hovered behind clipboard, angled downward, scanning Marcus's battered dog tags and the crease in his jacket pocket where the flip phone lived. Around them, forks hovered mid-air, and Jenny's soft commentary, a steady stream of, "He's not doing anything wrong. This is racial profiling," flickered on her screen. Sam stood by the counter, silent, but grounded the last line of defense between an unfolding humiliation and outright disaster. Marcus didn't flinch. He had crawled through worse under enemy fire. Baker's voice cut through the hum. "We said step outside, veteran. Why are you resisting resistance?" The word dripped like acid. Marcus folded his hands on the table. Dog tags clicking softly, a rhythmic drum that anchored him in calm. "I'm not resisting," he said, voice low enough that only Baker and Mills could hear. "I'm protecting my property." The flimsy diner table, his coat, the flip phone, all extensions of himself worn but not broken. He thought of the wildflower still pressed against the sidewalk cracks, a silent testament to survival. If that delicate bloom could push through concrete, he could weather 2 overzealous cops in a greasy spoon. Mills smirked, clipboard sliding into one hand. "Property. You pay with cash and no tip. You're welcome to leave, but not to loiter." The word loiter dug in like a barb, an accusation he'd earned medals to escape. His collar tightened. He fought the impulse to lash out. Instead, he remembered his training: breathe, listen, calculate. Each breath he drew was an act of defiance. Each heartbeat hammered purpose. He would not be another viral byline of homeless vet harassed. Jenny's stream exploded with emoji reactions, viewers rising by the second. Every new like was a lifeline, a witness. Sam's knuckles whitened as he gripped the counter edge. Marcus locked eyes with him, a silent exchange of resolve, and then returned his attention to the officers. The cafe door rattled as a breeze, or perhaps fate, whispered through. Marcus flexed his fingers, ready for the worst. Baker reached out, fingers brushing the phone's cracked hinge. Marcus snapped his hand back, voice firm, "Respect my space, officer." The 2 men froze, uniforms replaced by hesitation. In that heartbeat, Marcus was neither veteran nor vagrant. He was the axis on which their pride and prejudice spun. Mills swallowed pen, hovering above his report. Then a muffled voice crackled through the diner's wall speaker, an intercepted alert. "Code Victor Echo, unauthorized citizen encounter, override." Jenny's face paled as her phone displayed a notification: Department of Justice live intervention pending. Baker's jaw clenched. His eyes darted to the exit. Mills glanced at the front window where the wildflower's tiny petals caught a stray sunbeam, fragile yet unbowed. Marcus slid the flip phone across the table, its worn casing reflecting the ring of morning light. He sat back, dog tags resting against his chest, breathing steady. "They're coming," he said half to himself. The public scrutiny, the network of allies waiting unseen, everything he'd built in silence was about to crash through the diner door. Baker took a step back. Mills exhaled, lips pale. And in that pregnant pause, the diner held its breath, because the next moment could change everything. "You think you can break me with a badge?" "Think again," Marcus hissed the words, slipping out sharper than any blade. The diner's fluorescent lights flickered, as if in response, casting long shadows across his dog tags that rested against his chest. He braced himself as Officer Baker reached once more, hand twitching toward his phone. But this time Marcus didn't flinch. He had walked through mortar strikes less forgiving than a cop's heavy boot. Jenny's phone hovered at his shoulder. Livestream buzzing, DOJ en route, stay tuned. The on-screen alert blinked. Sam, arms folded, watched every motion like a hawk, ready to intercede if violence erupted. Silence fell heavy as a tomb. Baker's lips curled in anger. Enough games, step outside or face consequences. The word consequences seemed to echo off the Formica table, as glaring as the coffee stain spreading beneath Marcus's cup. He swallowed, tasting bitter regret. How many times had he swallowed fear before choking down survival? He let his fingers trace the edge of his flip phone one last time, dog tags chiming a steady rhythm like a war drum. That rhythmic jingle was his anchor, the only proof that beneath the frayed jacket was a man who had given more than most could imagine. Mills cleared his throat pen, poised over that clipboard. "We're giving you one last chance." He leaned forward, but Jenny's live stream caught movement behind him. The diner door swung wide, and in strode a woman in a tailored blazer badge glinting silver. Olivia Reyes, Assistant Director, Department of Justice. Her voice sliced through the tension. Officers' badge numbers now. No introduction, no hesitation. Baker froze, jaw slack. Mills' stuttered eyes widening as if he'd swallowed a bug. Jenny's viewers exploded into heart and fire emojis, over 10,000 watching in real time. Marcus felt a foreign warmth flood his chest. Relief. No, it was vindication tempered by the same uneasy spark he'd sensed in Fallujah before ambush. Olivia's gaze flicked to him briefly, a silent nod of solidarity that reached across years and battlefields. Baker's face reddened. "We were responding to a complaint," he mumbled, stepping back. Olivia's lips pressed into a thin line. "Your radio's picked up an unsubstantiated call. You interviewed a civilian without cause. That's a violation." Her words seemed to break invisible chains, and Marcus straightened, feeling weight lift from his shoulders. Outside, the tiny wildflower pressed against the sidewalk, glimmered in the afternoon sun, a stubborn emblem of survival. But even as Baker and Mills fumbled to remove their badges, something deeper stirred in Marcus, the knowledge that one rescue call, one friend's loyalty, could change the course of a man's life. He watched the two officers shuffle away, the lines of power redrawn in the aisle of a diner. Yet beyond that brief victory, a quieter question lingered. Would the world truly see him now? Or would this too become just another headline, lost in the noise? "Sometimes you have to break the silence to be heard," Marcus whispered as he leaned back against the vinyl booth, the weight of his military jacket suddenly feeling both heavier and more comforting. The diner had fallen into a hush so complete you could hear the faint hiss of the coffee machine and the soft patter of Jenny's tutorial voiceover. "Remember, folks, we're here live, no edits. This is raw." Marcus watched Officer Baker and Mills shuffle past the window, badges in hand, faces pale under the noon sun. Across the table, Olivia Reyes closed her phone, her sharp gaze settling on him not as a stranger, but as an old comrade. He felt a surge of something he hadn't known in years, respect earned through service, not pity dispensed by strangers. He ran a hand over his dog tags, the cool metal, a steady hum against his palm. "You answered my call," he said, nodding at Olivia. Her lips curved in a brief, knowing smile. "I had to," she replied quietly. Charging into an unsanctioned detainment wasn't her typical move, but Marcus's network of contacts in the DOJ had laid the groundwork months ago. He'd deployed a discreet AI monitoring protocol, one he helped design to flag any racial profiling incidents at public hotspots. When Baker and Mills escalated, the system pinged Olivia's secure line. The twist felt almost too neat, an invisible safety net woven by the very institution that often overlooked veterans like him. Jenny's camera swiveled to catch that moment as Marcus's eyes traced the chipped blue paint on the opposite wall, a subtle echo of the sky he once saw over Kabul. He realized that his battlefield had shifted from dusty trenches to cracked sidewalks, and the enemy was ignorance cloaked in authority. The wildflower outside, still defiantly wedged in concrete, gleamed in his peripheral vision. It reminded him that resilience could be as quiet as a breath, or as loud as a viral live stream. Sam set a fresh cup of coffee before Marcus, the steam curling in lazy spirals. "You okay?" he asked, voice rough with concern. Marcus nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "More than okay. I'm ready." He powered up the flip phone, its screen flickering to life with unread messages, one from a local veteran support group, another from a reporter craving an in-depth sit-down. Each ping was a pulse in the new fight he'd chosen to uplift others who lived unseen. He'd taken the risk to call in help for himself. Now risk felt like a small price to pay for giving voice to those still voiceless. Olivia's phone buzzed. She glanced down, eyebrows raising. "They want you on camera," she said, handing the device to him. A news chyron flashed his name, Marcus Hill, from homeless vet to viral champion. Marcus blinked at the screen. He'd never sought the spotlight. In uniform he faded into the collective, and out of it no one saw him at all. Now the camera was trained unblinking, waiting for him to speak. He folded his dog tags into his palm, thought of the countless men and women still waiting for someone to notice. He looked up at Jenny, Sam, and Olivia, his allies in this unexpected crusade. "Let's tell the real story," he said, voice steady. Jenny hit record again. As the lens focused, Marcus realized the true twist wasn't in who saved him, but in who he'd become, no longer simply a survivor, but a beacon for change. Outside, the wildflower trembled in the breeze, bracing for the next challenge. And in that moment of quiet, before the storm of questions, Marcus felt a fierce calm. He was ready to speak, and this time he'd be heard. "Praise me now, but remember who you overlooked," Marcus Hill muttered, as he adjusted the dog tags chilled by the diner's air conditioner. The live stream pinged again, comments flooding in. "He deserves everything, we see you, Marcus, real hero." A rush of validation washed over him, but the weight in his chest stayed the same. Across the booth, Jenny's phone captured every nuance, the tremor in his voice, the silent tremor in his hands. She whispered, "We're live in 5 markets." Marcus nodded, steadying himself. He'd never asked for this spotlight yet. Here he was, holding it like a fragile flame against the gusts of public opinion. Sam slid into the booth opposite him, placing a sealed envelope atop the Formica table. "From the VA housing program," he said quietly, eyes soft. Marcus lifted the flap, a voucher for a 1-bedroom apartment, paperwork for a caseworker, an emergency psychologist referral. His throat tightened. He fingered the paper as though it might dissolve in his grasp. The wildflower outside the window, battered by traffic, still thrived, a testament to perseverance against all odds. He thought of every silent vet sleeping bleary-eyed on benches, every face no camera would ever show. Then a clatter at the door. The diner door swung open, and 2 sharply dressed men entered, folders in hand. One introduced himself as David Nguyen from Veterans Together, a nonprofit offering to underwrite rent for 6 months, connect him with job training, even fly him cross-country to speak at a major forum. The other, a local news producer, beckoned for an on-the-spot interview. Marcus's heart pounded. These were tools, lifelines he'd never dared imagine. But he hesitated. Each offer carried expectations. Microphone held story-shaped narrative framed. He swallowed, gauging the risk. Would this propel him or tether him to another label? Suddenly, Jenny's phone chirped with an alert, unverified rumor. Marcus Hill's military records sealed by federal order. Hundreds of new comments demanded evidence. Marcus's pulse spiked as he realized the next battle wouldn't be in a diner, but online, where truth and falsehood tangled like barbed wire. His voice caught. He looked at Sam, at Olivia Reyes standing by the counter, arms crossed with that familiar blend of authority and empathy. He knew he could refuse retreat into anonymity once more. But if cowardice haunted him like an old demon, so would silence. He folded the VA voucher alongside the nonprofit's letter, sliding both back to Sam. "I appreciate this," he said, voice resolute, "but I need more than solutions bought with gratitude. I need change that lasts." The diner's doors rattled as a gust of wind swept through like the breath of a world on the verge of transformation. Outside, the wildflower quivered, its petals ready to burst. Jenny's camera locked onto his face, streaming to thousands. Marcus inhaled the quiet tension, steeling himself for what came next, knowing the hardest truth was still to come. "Sometimes the world only listens when you refuse the easy way out," Marcus Hill said into Jenny's camera voice, low but fierce. The diner's hum faded as viewers poured in, thousands now waiting on his next words. He'd turned down housing funding and high-profile interviews because his fight was bigger than his own rescue. He slid the nonprofit letter and VA voucher to Sam, who caught them with a nod of understanding. Outside the window, that stubborn wildflower still clung to life, petals bright against the gray sidewalk, a beacon of hope in a place meant to crush it. Marcus leaned forward, dog tags tapping against his chest like a warning drum. "I could take these offers and disappear," he continued, eyes burning. "But what about the ones who won't get a second chance? The ones whose stories die when the cameras leave? His words carried the weight of countless nameless veterans invisible on street corners swallowed by broken systems. Today, his voice roared for them. The diner's regulars watched silent but intent, as if each held a piece of the truth he now spoke. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a tattered photograph, 3 young soldiers' faces bright beneath dusty helmets. Sam recognized it Marcus's old team in Kabul Task Force Wolfhound. "We saved hostages," Marcus said, voice cracking. "We ran toward danger together, but when we took off our uniforms, half of us became ghosts." His hand trembled as he traced the outline of his younger self. "They called us heroes. Then they forgot we still hurt when we came home." Jenny's live stream comments swirled. "Tell us what to do. We're with you. Where do we start?" Marcus looked to Olivia Reyes, whose arms were folded, jaw set like steel. She'd risked her career to back him today. Now it was time to mobilize. He closed his eyes, inhaled deep, and spoke with calm conviction. "We start by standing up for each other. By refusing crumbs when the whole loaf is ours. By demanding accountability not just in police precincts, but in veterans' affairs, in local councils, in every office that turns its back on our people." He stood pulling his jacket tighter. Sam moved to refill his coffee, but Marcus held up a hand. It wasn't about caffeine. It was about solidarity. "I'm organizing a public forum next week," he announced, "right here in this diner. We'll have testimonies, lawyers, mental health counselors, representatives from the VA. We'll build a network strong enough that no veteran can fall through the cracks." A hush fell, the diner's usual chatter replaced by purpose. The wildflower outside seemed to nod, as if nature itself endorsed the gathering storm of change. Olivia stepped closer, voice soft but urgent. "I'll push for DOJ oversight at every meeting. No more empty promises." Marcus met her gaze, respect and resolve passing between them. Jenny's camera captured it, all the vow in his eyes, the way his dog tags glinted under the lights. He returned his gaze to the audience beyond the screen. "If you believe in this, if you believe people deserve more than pity, then join us. Share this video, show up next week. Reach out to your council members. Because nothing changes when we stay silent." As the diner door chimed and the morning rush resumed, Marcus's heart pounded not with fear, but with hope forged in defiance. The wildflower's petals caught a new slant of sunlight, fragile yet unbroken. The next chapter was waiting. "They said change would take years, so we'll start in days," Marcus declared, voice steady, yet charged with urgency, as he stepped out into the late afternoon light. The small sidewalk outside the diner had transformed into a gathering point. A dozen veterans in faded jackets, a handful of activists clutching signs reading "Honor Our Heroes" and "No More Ghosts," and Jenny live-streaming the scene to 20,000 watchers. The wildflower in the cracked paving stone between the curb and asphalt caught his eye, its petals now sunlit gold, a reminder that even the smallest life can pierce the hardest concrete. Marcus felt a surge of pride mixed with nerves. Organizing this forum was one thing, but standing at its center would demand more than words. Behind him, Olivia Reyes barked orders into her phone, coordinating DOJ observers and local media. Sam handed Marcus a bottled water face lined with worry. "You ready for this?" he asked quietly. Marcus gripped the plastic, feeling both buoyed by support and terrified of failure. He met Sam's gaze. "I'm ready to risk it all," he said, dog tags clinking against his chest. "But if we don't push now, nothing changes." The crowd murmured in agreement. Among them stood a woman with a camera crew, Maya Carter, a local investigative journalist who had uncovered internal complaints against Officer Baker for profiling incidents 3 years prior. Her presence was a twist of fate. She held the proof to dismantle the very system that had tried to silence Marcus. As the clock ticked toward 5 p.m., Marcus climbed onto a folding chair, the platform for the evening's speaks. The diner door chimed open and closed behind him, an echo of every soldier's heartbeat, stepping into unknown peril. He cleared his throat. "Thank you all for being here," he began. "Tonight isn't just about me. It's about every veteran who's ever been invisible, every citizen who's ever been dismissed because of where they sleep or the color of their skin. His eyes scanned faces illuminated by street lamps and camera lights. A hush fell thick enough to fill the spaces between words. He signaled Maya forward. She unfurled a stack of documents, internal memos, prior complaints, and a spreadsheet tracking similar incidents in counties across the state. "This is the pattern," Maya said, voice resonant. "It's not isolated. These officers were never held accountable until now." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus felt the ground shake under him, the momentum of truth erupting at his back. He raised his hand. "We take this evidence to DOJ next week. We demand disciplinary action and policy reform. Then we push for community-led oversight boards with real power." His words were missiles aimed at entrenched bureaucracy. Suddenly, a lone figure broke through the crowd, a teenager clutching a tattered photo of her uncle, another veteran who disappeared from the streets years ago. She handed it to Marcus, tears glistening in her eyes. "My uncle too deserved a seat at a table," she said. Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. He carefully pocketed the photo beside his dog tags, tucking the girl's pain into his own story. The symbolism was potent, her uncle's absence, another wildflower uprooted before it could bloom. As the first stars emerged overhead, the crowd erupted in applause, but Marcus held up a hand for silence. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. Behind him, the diner sign flickered, one letter sputtering out like the system they intended to dismantle. He felt the weight of every eye upon him, every expectation. In that silvered pause, he realized tonight he wasn't just speaking for himself. He was the vessel for countless echoes. And with the forum behind him, the real trial of change was about to begin. "You said one call could change everything. Welcome to the aftermath." Marcus Hill's voice resonated through the quiet street as dawn broke over suburban Atlanta. The forum had ended hours ago, but the ripples it sent through the community were only beginning to stir. He stood alone outside the diner, its neon sign flickering open even before the morning crowd arrived. His breath fogged in the cool air, dog tags cold against his chest, the photograph of the teenager's uncle safely tucked into his wallet, a constant reminder of lives still unaccounted for. He watched as Sam unlocked the front door, Jenny trailing behind, with her live stream gear faces still lit by the glow of their phones from last night's event. Olivia Reyes appeared next, briefcase in hand, her expression unreadable. They'd surrendered after the forum policy proposals, petitions, signed affidavits, all in Olivia's case file, ready to flood DOJ leadership. Marcus exhaled, feeling both the thrill of accomplishment and the tug of fear. Change was a beast with many heads, and he'd just wounded the first. Inside the diner's usual sounds returned the hiss of the espresso machine, the scrape of chairs, the low chatter of early customers. But Marcus stepped through the door as though through a portal, every patron's gaze settling on him, some with respect, others with curiosity, a few with skepticism. He sank into his usual booth, the vinyl seat creaking beneath him. Sam placed a hot mug of coffee in front of him, and the wildflower from last fall, now a small potted plant behind the counter, caught his eye petals unfurled in the morning light. It had been transplanted by Jenny after the forum, a deliberate symbol that growth required care. He sipped the coffee, its warmth flooding his veins, grounding him. Jenny edged his phone closer. "Any final thoughts for the live stream?" Marcus nodded, looking directly into the lens, as though into the eyes of every viewer who'd tuned in. "We planted a seed." He began, voice calm, but charged. "But real change grows through vigilance. We can't let this story become yesterday's headline. We must water it with continued action, show up at council meetings, support local vets, demand transparency." Olivia stepped into the frame, adding, "The DOJ will review every complaint filed last night. We're pushing for an independent oversight committee." Marcus's gaze shifted to Sam, who simply nodded, no words needed to convey solidarity. The diner door chimed again, and the teenage girl who handed him the photo yesterday entered, flanked by her mother. She approached nervously, placing a simple card on the table. "Thank you, Sergeant Hill," it read in a child's careful scrawl. Marcus picked it up, eyes misting. The card was more than gratitude. It was a pledge from a new generation. He tucked the card beside his coffee, then pressed his palm to the table, feeling its smooth surface, ordinary, unremarkable. Yet it bore the weight of extraordinary events. His mind flickered to the thousands of veterans still unseen, the policies, yet unwritten, the hearts left unmended. He let the silence fill the frame as Jenny's stream ticked tens of thousands of live viewers. Finally, Marcus spoke, soft but unbreakable. This fight isn't about hero worship. It's about recognizing our shared humanity before it's tested. Every time we look away, we let another wildflower die unnoticed. Don't let that happen. He stood dog tags chiming once. Outside, the early morning sun glinted off the diner's windows, illuminating the potted wildflower's petals. The camera lingered on it for a moment, an emblem of hope, and then cut. The screen went dark. But in the hush that followed, the promise of what would come next hung in the air, as fragile and potent as that lone bloom. And somewhere beyond the reach of any single story, a new chapter was waiting to be written. One voice added to another, until every forgotten veteran found a place to stand.